seminars. This semester, this is a joint seminar between the Department of Teaching, Learning, and Culture and Education Administration and Human Resources. I'm Radhika Guru from TLAC, and I'm just going to introduce our dean, who's here for just very kind of him to be here for a few minutes to be part of this. I'll turn it over to Dr. Doug Palmer, our dean.
Howdy again.
Howdy.
Yeah, this is a wonderful collaboration, actually, across two of the departments within the college. And I do want to publicly express my appreciation to the faculty and the leadership within the Department of Educational Administration and Human Resource Development. Dr. Jean Matz and Dr. Fred McCougar, if you could just stand so you can be recognized. The recognition is the fact that there's a lot to be learned from all sides, from various people participating in our various preparation programs. Obviously, teachers are going to be working with a variety of administrators, leaders in schools, and it is that collaboration that is absolutely key in terms of the development of successful programs and the implementation of successful programs. And so the idea of having an opportunity to interact with administrators prior to you leaving here, getting some sets of insights and having an opportunity to ask questions, I think is a wonderful opportunity. And again, I very much appreciate that. And obviously, the leadership of Dr. Varuru is extraordinary. So without further ado, though, what this is all about is not the dean of the college. It's about having an opportunity to interact with administrators from an outstanding school district. And by the way, I'm the superintendent of Alvin Independent School District. School District. Dr. Fred Brent is going to be introducing a whole series of people who have come with him to provide some other additional background and insight. But Dr. Brent is also a graduate of our college, and so we're having an opportunity to have our graduates talk to our soon-to-be graduates to work in the field. So again, I want to thank you publicly, Fred, for you bringing your team here to work with our students. So without further ado, Dr. Fred Brent.
Okay, thank you very much. Dean, I appreciate the opportunity to see you once again, and thank you for all the work that you do. It is an extreme privilege to be back in Aggie Land. Of course, we have to say howdy. We don't get to say that everywhere else, so howdy to you. Howdy. And thank you. Oh, music to my ears. The voices of heaven. We have a lot of people here to speak to you today. The greatest thing about today is that you're going to hear from people other than me. All right, I have a lot of thoughts that I want to share with you, and I'm going to have some introductory comments first. But I'm told that when we were in the college setting back in the great halls of Texas A&M University, we need to be a little more formal, and we're going to give you a brief bio of those who are going to be speaking to you today. So I'm going to introduce Daniel Combs, our Director of Communications. He's going to share some information about each one of the men and women that you'll hear from, and then I'll take it over again. So here we go.
Howdy, thank you all for being here with us today. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce my colleagues to each of you. So as I go ahead and introduce them, I'm going to ask them to stand so that you can put the face with the name and the background. So first of all, we're going to start with Dr. Fred Brent.
Get mine, we'll go on. Let's go.
He is our superintendent, and he graduated with his doctorate at A&M. There we go. Okay. Dr. Christy Whitback. She graduated from Missouri State with elementary education. She went to University of Houston for her administration, supervision, and mid-management degree, and her PhD is from Texas A&M. She began her career as a first-grade teacher. She was a team leader, a language arts specialist in Alvin ISD. She was an assistant principal for 3 years in Katy. She was an elementary, junior high, and high school principal. And an interesting thing about Dr. Whitback is she actually opened a school at each level. She opened an elementary school, a junior high school, and a high school. So that's a unique characteristic about Dr. Whitback. And she is now our Assistant Superintendent of Academics. Next, I'd like to introduce Dr. Elizabeth Velos. Dr. Velos graduated from University of Houston with her bachelor's degree in science and elementary education. She has her administration, supervision, and mid-management from University of Houston and Clear Lake, and her doctorate in educational administration from Baylor. There we go. Yeah, round of applause. Hey! She was an assistant principal in Pearland and Alvin ISD, and a principal in Alvin and Isleta ISD, and she was also a director of human resources in Isleta Employee Relations, and she is now the assistant superintendent of human resources. We have Jeff Burke. He is the director of human resources for secondary campuses. Jeff is in his 17th year of public education, and this is his second year in Alvin. He has served as a high school teacher, a coach, an assistant principal, associate principal, and a campus principal. He is currently pursuing his doctorate in educational leadership from Texas A&M University with a research focus on the Fourth Amendment in public schools. We have Dr. Johnny Brasinio with us. Dr. Brasinio is the Alvin High School principal. He previously served as an elementary principal for 2 years, then a junior high principal for 2 years, and currently serves this first year at Alvin High School as a principal. He earned degrees from Texas Lutheran University, University of Houston Clear Lake, and his doctorate is from Lamar University.
Most of my close friends are Aggies.
Okay, next we have Jessica McMullen. Jessica is in her 11th year of public education and currently serves as the principal of Mary Merrick Elementary. After graduating from Stephen F. Austin State University, she began her teaching career as a 4th grade self-contained teacher in Hudson ISD, which is in East Texas. Later, she taught 7th and 9th grade English at a junior high and high school levels while working as the grade level team lead, English Language Arts District Curriculum Department head, and high school cheerleading coach. Bless you.
Hey, we have a new job for you.
Get that one up a long time.
Jessica later moved to Alvin ISD as an assistant principal, where she opened the 12th new elementary campus in the district and now is in her 2nd year as principal for the district. And I'm currently the communications director for the district. I was a high school teacher. I taught history, social studies, was a social studies department head, and I was an assistant principal for 3 years. And now I am excited to be with Alvin ISD, and I'm a 3rd year doctoral student here at Texas A&M University.
Okay, so I get to say howdy one more time. All right, thank you so much. Okay, guys, you're about to enter the most important profession in the world in my mind. You are the future of our democracy. Don't let anyone tell you any different. If our democracy will survive, when it survives, it will be because of public education. A free, appropriate public education for every student. All right, your job is going to be to empower students. The majority of your students in the state of Texas are coming to you underprivileged, economically disadvantaged, minority students. They're coming with a future or in a circumstance that they can't control. No child chose who his parents were, how tall he or she is, color of his or her eyes. But what they can choose is their school life. And it's your job to empower that student to be the best they're capable of becoming, to help them understand that the one thing they're in control of, no matter what else happens, is their school life. Their life at school. This is where they're free, this is where they're safe, this is where they're loved. And it's your job to do that and empower these kids. You are entering a ministry that's more important than any other ministry in my mind. I know I'm probably not supposed to say that, but I did. This is your calling. This is your passion. It's got to be a commitment. Alvin ISD, we have about 19,000 students. We're growing. We're the fastest growing district in the Houston area percentage-wise. About 800 new students a year. The best thing that you're going to get out of today is you're going to hear from people who I'm thankful I don't have to compete with for a job. The men and women that are here today are it. They're talented. They're great. And I'm so privileged to have had the opportunity to hire them and to work with them. Each one of them is hired because they're smarter than me in some area. Most of them in a lot of areas are smarter than me. But they're great people. And so please know that, this is a two-way street here. We need to hire some people as well. We hired how many teachers last year, guys? We hired 200 plus teachers last year. We have 800 new students. Hey, I see you getting your information out, right? Okay. We need teachers. But we want talent. We want talent. It's got to be your passion. You're going to work harder than you ever worked. But I'm telling you, it's a great thing. It's a wonderful opportunity to make a difference that will it'll live a lot longer than we're here. Okay? So I'm going to kick it off to a person named Jeffrey Slade Burke. No problem. Love you. Yeah. There's a story with Mr. Burke. Mr. Burke is our Director of Secondary HR. In 1995, he and I were teaching and coaching together. And we've had a great relationship ever since. And we've had many opportunities to serve together. And what I love about Jeff is he's just a great person. He understands people, but he has a passion for making a difference. So I would encourage you today. I'll have a few closing comments, but these are the people with the talent that you need to hear from today, and know that we hope this is the beginning of a relationship with you, that you can talk to us, you can email us, that we can have some sort of communication, because we need you to be successful. Whether you're in Alvin ISD or Timbuktu, wherever you are, there's a student in public education whose life you need to be a part of. Okay? So don't ever forget that. Here we go. Mr. Burke.
Okay, what I'm going to talk to you about today is how to approach your job search. As Dan mentioned, I've been at all levels. Started off teaching and coaching with Dr. Brent at Little Star for Smartiesville, Texas, in Orange a long time ago. And this is my 17th year in public ed. I've served. I've taught English, Spanish, geography. I've taught a lot of different things, U.S. history. I've had the fortune to serve as an assistant principal on the elementary campus for 3 years. That's a long 3 years. You know, I'm a secondary guy through and through, but I did love my time there. Then I was an assistant principal at Anderson Shiro Junior Senior High School, right down the road outside of Navasota. So I was there for 3 years. Anyway, as the assistant principal, and I was the associate principal, and then I was the campus principal. I was fortunate enough to come to Alvin ISD as the director of HR, and this is my second year there. And so part of my job is to go to job fairs, to meet individuals like yourselves. I love that part of the job. I love coming to Aggieland. It's fantastic. What I love so much about it is that you guys seem to have your stuff together. You seem to know where you want to go, and you know how to work. And that's very, very important when you're starting off teaching, because it is work. You're very service-oriented. In fact, just a while ago, I was down in the bookstore, and I was looking for one of those little decals for your automobile, because I am ABD almost with my doctorate. I'm still, Dr. Bufuko's on my committee, so I'm trying to push through to the end there. So I want a little decal. I'm waiting on my ring, too. Can't wait for that to get here. But I was looking for them. I just made a comment to Daniel, said, you know, where are the decals? And some random guy, student, just stopped and said, hey, let me show you where they are. And that is what I love about this university and this community. I miss living here. I miss, you know, the interaction with you guys. Are very fortunate to be here, and just by virtue of being in Texas A&M University, I know that you're very quality people. So I want to talk to you about what to do when you're looking for a job. The transition from graduating and getting that first job. And I just have one slide for you. Okay? This is kind of a new presentation style that we've been trying out. It's just visual. I'd like to point to the very first one here in the middle, support public education. Hopefully he knows that that's misspelled. There is a need for quality educators. There is always going to be a need for it. It is, like we said, like Dr. Brent said, it is our life's calling, and it's so very vital to our democracy, to our world. And we need intelligent people to make our kids more intelligent. So I'll put that up there. If you look in the top right, you'll see an ear. Okay? And what that is supposed to signify is you need to listen. You need to listen when you go to job fairs. I tell people exactly what to do if they want to work for Alvin Independent School District. I said, okay, if I like them. I'll say, give me your resume, send me an email, call us, reference. You know, a lot of times when you're talking to a recruiter or whatever, you'll strike up a conversation, you'll tell them something about yourself, and I'll say, reference that. Tell me that, hey, we met at the Texas A&M Job Fair. I was the person that played soccer at Katy. Okay? And I'm always surprised by how few people actually do that. Either that means, A, they didn't like me, or they don't want to come to Alvin. But, you know, I have had a lot of people that email back, and those people, that to me shows initiative. You know, if you really want to be there, just listen, because we'll tell you exactly what to do. Okay, so listen. Listen when you're talking to universities, I'm sorry, to school districts. Listen when you're at the job fairs, because a lot of times that's the best way to find out information. You know, the transition up here in the top. Is there one here? Danny, you know? You don't know? Okay. Up here in the top left. Person walking across stones. That's supposed to signify the transition that you're about to undertake. I know there's a lot of uncertainty about it. I was exactly where you were 16 or 17 years ago. And there's a lot of trepidation that goes along with that. Where am I going to end up? Where am I going to be? What do I need to look for in a school district? All those things, do your research. Find out what you want. Talk to other people. Call the district. Drive out there. See if you like the community. Okay? That transition is very important. In the bottom left, have a vision. Have a vision of where you want to be. And that's one thing that I have noticed about A&M students in particular is that most of you guys do know where you want to go. You know where you want to live. You know where you want to work. You know what kind of environment you want to work in. Okay? But I would encourage you to get that, start letting that germinate in your brains. Okay, this is kind of where I see my career. Do I want to be a teacher for X amount of years? Do I want to be a counselor? Do I want to be an assistant principal? Do I want to be a principal one day? What kinds of aspirations do you have? So start thinking about those things now, because a lot of times I know with me, I moved into an assistant principal's job probably before I thought I would. And I know a lot of us have in that respect. So you never know when that change might occur, but if you have that in your mind that that's what you want to do, it'll make that transition easier. The bottom right, the jigsaw puzzle. I really have thought about this a lot, and fit is very, very important. Okay, when you're in an interview, and I know Dr. Bellis is going to talk about interviews more when she goes in just a second, but you really need to determine if the district is a good fit for you and if you're a good fit for the district. Okay, and that requires asking questions when you're in an interview, when you're at the job fairs. Okay, find out if what you believe or what you want to do lines up with what that district wants to do. Okay, fit's very important in all aspects of our lives. Okay, so really, really think about that as you start considering where you want to teach. And then last, at the very top, differentiate yourself. What makes you different? Okay, what other things have you done besides other people? What other community activities have you been involved in? What service organizations do you belong to? What's something unique about yourself? Okay, those are all things that we look at when we're interviewing candidates, and it's a good thing the job market's starting to pick back up. But here a couple of years ago, it was very, very tight, and so we were looking for the very, very best. And so I would say, with that, differentiate yourself, really think about where you want to be, and do your research. If you guys have any questions, I know I'll be at the job fair here in the spring. Are you guys going to be at that one, or are you still a year away? Okay, yes, I'm seeing yes or no. We don't know yet. Okay, so if you do, come by Alvin's booth, and we can talk more about that. But at this time, let me introduce my boss, my direct boss, Dr. Elizabeth Bellows, our Assistant Superintendent of HR. So thank you guys very much for the opportunity to be here today, and we'll be around to answer questions at the end.
The next part is talking about the actual interview process. I'm going to ask you guys to follow along with me. Some of the information that I provided, Jeff provided earlier, I'll be talking about as well, but I'm going to kind of give you some details about what to expect when we do. Well, let me just get started. When you start looking for a job, it's very important that you're looking for the right job. Just somewhat what Jeff shared with you, it's not just getting the job, but you really need to get the job that you really want. Right now with the economy, you can see that a lot of people are going into education, and there are a lot of great applicants out there. So something about you needs to be set apart from the others. And I'm going to be very honest with you, being an Aggie sets you apart. And I say that as a Baylorite, that being an Aggie, anytime I see anybody that comes from A&M, automatically I know their education. I know what kind of students they were, and I know that your education is great. So that in itself sets you apart. So make sure that you have something. I'm going to go through the pictures somewhat like Jeff did. We're going to start out here with the platypus. And my platypus is what makes you different. And for you, it's being an Aggie. Play up on that. When you go looking for a job, many times it's the people that you know. And I tease our Aggies over here. I want to be an honorary Aggie because y'all have a secret society out there. You really do. Make sure you keep those connections. Make sure you talk to people and let them know that you're looking for the job. So what else sets you apart? When you go looking for a job, many times you see that you're looking for a teaching job. When you get out there with the needs of the students that we have, you're going to see that teaching jobs are not just third grade teacher. You're going to find interventionists, math specialists. They're going to be different kinds of jobs. So make sure you look for the job that you want. When you go looking for that job, look at that job description. So when you do your resume, you can talk about those things that are in that job description. For example, the math interventionist is a very popular position right now. With the testing going on, we're looking for people that are specialized in those areas. So make sure you mention those things. When you also do your resume, make sure you proofread. And I say that honestly. A lot of times when you go out looking for a job, this is the way I did it when I first started teaching. I student taught in a district, Deer Park, which was very popular back then because it was the highest paying district. And I knew, okay, I know that this may not be the place I'm going to be, so I'm going to start looking for my position. And I created a crate. And for every district that I wanted to be in, I had a little file. And I say this because you're going to have to do that. You're going to have to be diligent and make sure that you do not just apply for one district. So when you do that, make sure you proofread your resume. I've had several people in our position that when they turn it into me, they're saying to the assistant superintendent of Aldine or another district. So make sure you check and you proofread. Another one is be honest. On your resume, most of you are going to come out with very little experience other than student teaching. So you're going to have to find things that you've done outside of that. For example, counselors. If you've ever been a camp counselor, make sure you mention that. If you did any kind of work with children, volunteer work, make sure you mention that. You've got to find things that are going to make you stand out, different from the other applicants. So make sure you put anything outside of the ordinary on that resume. The other thing is references. People sometimes put references to people they think are going to give them great references, but the ones that we look at are previous supervisors. So make sure you automatically put your student teacher, whoever you work with your student teacher, if you can, the administrator at that campus, and anybody that you work in that district, a specialist, a coordinator, anybody that you can put on there that would give you a good reference, but also have some knowledge about your work. Make sure that you at least list 2 or 3 of them, and make sure you ask permission before you do that, so that, because we do call them. If we get a resume or application without that, that's a red flag to us. So make sure you do put those on there. If you look at the networking, when we talk about networking, I mentioned being an Aggie. Seriously, make sure you let your cohorts, other people know that you're looking for a job. More than anything else, I think who you know helps you get your foot in the door. So make sure you mention that to people. Who, that you went to University of A&M. Just for that in itself, that's going to get your foot in the door. Make sure that you, as your network, that you're also talking to fellow educators. Talk to your student teacher. Let her know, because even if it's not at that campus, there'll be other jobs, and she'll share with them. So make sure you let people know that you're applying, and make sure you let educators know. If you look at the picture with the marathon, as you're doing this, know that it's not going to be a one-time application. Make sure that you are out there applying to every district that you're interested in, not just once, but applying to every district that you're interested in, and that you're doing follow-through. People always ask, is it appropriate for us to email the principal? If you apply for a position, it is appropriate to email the principal, letting them know. If you're in that district doing some kind of substituting that day, it's very appropriate to stop by. They may not be able to see you, but sometimes just seeing a face with a name helps. So make sure you get out there and start showing who you are and getting out to those campuses. Another thing is substituting. Substituting is going to help you get a job. So make sure that when you're not working, that you're substituting or you're volunteering in the schools. Engagement. When you get to the interview process, you need to be engaging. When you get into the interview process, something different about you. You need to make sure that you stand out. And as I was reflecting on this, and I thought, now, as I interview people, who have I hired and why did I hire them? Well, one of the things that when we were having some interviews for our communications director, Daniel, everybody came in there with a resume, everybody came in there with paperwork to show us what they can do. But something unique and different about Daniel was that he provided us with a video, something that was different and unique. And at the time I thought, interesting. But I'll tell you, that sold us, because we could see the type of work that he could do. So do something different that will make you stand out and make sure people know who you are and remember who you are. Another thing that I've seen before is people putting pictures of things that they did while they were student teaching on a postcard on the top of their application. When they turned the application, they just stapled that on there. that let us know what kind of hands-on activities they were doing with their students. Just something simple like that, but something that'll make you stand out. Also with engaging. Anytime you go into an interview, I can tell you there's going to be generic questions that are going to be asked no matter what. So if you're prepared ahead of time, then you will be able to answer those questions easily. There are simple things that they're always going to ask. They're always going to ask about your background. They're always going to ask about your work experience. And then they're going to ask about things such as communication skills. They're going to ask about your instructional strategies, techniques, classroom management. So before you go into an interview, make sure you think through those things so that when they ask those things, you can provide some experiences that you may have had to help you answer those questions. But be prepared. And the last one, who knows who that person is right here? Who's that? Come on!
Deion Sanders.
Come on, Deion Sanders. Do you know?
Are y'all that young?
No Cowboys fans?
Cowboys fans.
All right, Jeff, tell us, what does Deion Sanders tell us?
Okay, Deion Sanders was obviously played cornerback for the, not obviously, I'm sorry. Cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, was also played baseball. The Atlanta Braves, one of the two sport athletes, very rare, awesome. And he had a reality show. You guys know he lives in Texas, in Prosper, which is just north of Frisco. Any DFW people here? I know you're asking me to, I'm trying to set the stage, man. Just relax. So anyway, he has this reality show, and he's got a huge mansion. He has a 2-story closet. The closet's huge, okay? So he's always dressed really well. And he said, and I tell when I do all of our substitute trainings and all that, I tell people this: if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. If you play good, they pay good. So the point is, dress professionally, okay? Do it up, dress professionally. That's all we have to do.
And as we talk about dressing professionally, one of the things that you have to remember, most people that you'll be interviewing with will be people my age, my generation. So you need to think about that. You need to dress in a way that we feel is professional, which may be suits, a nice skirt, slacks, that type of clothing. But make sure that you are prepared for that interview by doing that. I'm going to read off a list of things that you do not do. I think everybody always says, okay, what should I not do? I'm going to read off a list, and that way that hopefully that will help you be better prepared. First thing is poor appearance. Make sure you go in there professionally. Application is incomplete or sloppy. We put those away. We don't even look at them. So make sure it's complete and you've got your references on there. If you're overly aggressive, I said make sure you get in there and let them know you're interested, but if you're too aggressive, they get disinterested. Lack of tact and courtesy, lack of maturity, lack of enthusiasm, failure to ask questions about the job. Just as Jeff talked a little bit earlier, we're looking for somebody for our job, but we want somebody also looking for us, who really wants to work for us, not just because we're a job, but because they want to be there. Ask good questions. When answering your questions, respond with depth, not generally. Make sure you understand. And a lot of times when you answer questions, think about your experiences. That always helps you answer fully. If they ask you a classroom management question, think about how are you doing it when you're student teaching. What are your steps? Answer it fully. Make eye contact with your interviewer. Show interest in the district. Check the AEIS report. Know a little bit about the data. What kind of district are you coming into? What kind of job? What kind of position? Make sure you understand that. Don't be over anxious about the money because that also turns people off. Negative attitude about past employers. That's one, and I've had this several times when I ask, what about your previous experience? Well, we just didn't get along very well. I'm anxious to get started with somebody new. Well, that doesn't set off very well, so make sure you don't have anything negative to say about your previous work. Having a great sense of humor, and also promptness, making sure that you are there on time and that you're not taking too much time either. Make sure you answer fully, but don't just linger and linger. So basically, those are the interview process and the questions that we have. If there's anything that you'd like, I do have my card, and I'll be glad to answer any emails, questions for you. Our next person will be Dr. Whitbeck. She'll be talking about wisdom for advice.
Well, good afternoon. Now that you've heard all about how to get a job, one of the things that I'm just going to focus on is what has my years of experience taught me that I might want to share with you with where you are right now. I remember it seems like yesterday, life just goes so fast, that I was looking for a job and began teaching and then being an administrator, and someday you'll look back and you go, wow, it's true, it really does go that fast. You just don't think it when you're sitting where you are. But you know, when you've seen a lot of young teachers coming on board, you do notice a lot of things. And so maybe there's some things we can share. And I'm going to do it in 2 parts. I kind of like to use the number 7. One of the jobs I had that was one of my favorite was being principal of Seven Lakes High School in Katy. So we always did everything off of the number 7. So one thing I want to share with you is one of my very, very favorite books. And it's a book more about life than about anything else. And it's called Encouraging the Heart. And actually, Dr. Brent and all of us led our district using this book and the 7 essentials that it talks about. For how to be a good leader, how to be a good teacher is how I would focus this for you right now. And there's 7 little tips. So, there's the book, Encouraging the Heart, Kusner and Posner. And here they are. So the first one is that setting clear standards. And you think about this, you know, what are the standards for you in your life? And are you meeting those goals that you set? So standards for you personally and standards for you professionally. Like if you're a teacher, you've got standards and goals that school's got to meet and that grade level's got to meet, your district's got to meet. What are you doing to make sure those happen? And you know what? People like to know what's expected. Think about classes you've been in where maybe the teacher or the professor is kind of all over the board and you don't exactly know what your grade's going to be. It's irritating, okay? It is. And we've all been there at some point. So you want to make sure that you're clear with your students and clear with your own self about what's expected. It really energizes people. It makes people want to be around you because it makes sense to them. Another one is just expecting the best. You're going to have all kinds of kids. There are going to be some that are easy to love and easy to teach, and then there's going to be some. And you know what? You got to love them all, and you got to believe in them. And you know the old My Fair Lady and Eliza Doolittle, and how they, you may not know that classic, but it's a classic. You need to Google it. It's really out there. But you know, that example, let me think of another one. The old believing the best in someone, and that brings it out in them. And there's going to be some little kid that you're going to really have to work hard with. So really remember that. Your job is to expect the best and find something good in every single child. It can be done. I turned it around. I did it. There we go. Another one is pay attention. Details. Cross the T's and dot the I's. Dr. Velos just talked about those resumes. We've all gotten them with spelling errors, and you just want to throw it in the trash because you're thinking, why would I put them in an English class if this is their #1 impression to me and they can't even do it right? So you got to pay attention to a lot of the details. Walk around when you're that teacher. Nobody wants somebody sitting behind the desk, but in the background. Get up there, get involved, pay attention to what's going on. Pay attention to what's going on in your whole school. It's not just about that little classroom you're going to get assigned to. It's about the whole process. And help as you can. But look and listen. And one of the things I'll mention here in today's society, think about all the violence that we've had. And this is kind of a new aspect of this I hadn't really thought about before. Paying attention to the emotions of kids, what they write, when they're writing an essay, how they answer, what they doodle, things like that. It might be a red flag that could make a difference for lots and lots of people. So paying attention is just a huge skill to develop. Personalizing recognition, praise, specific praise. You can't do it enough as a teacher. Kids, and I will even say junior high kids, yes, even those crazy little 13-year-olds, that they're really at an awkward stage where they don't even like the way they look or anything, they just feel awkward. And high school kids, it's not just for first grade, it's for everybody. Everybody expects and loves to be praised and to be recognized. And one thing that I'll say to you that I know that I'm proud of, okay, because, I'm on the second half of my career, but I'm proud of something I did when I was a teacher, and I still remember it. Every single marking period, every year that I taught, which was, I think, 5 years, I wrote the students who got a report card a personal letter. And they'd get their report card and they'd get a personal letter from me, and it would say 2 things I was proud of that they had done that 6 weeks, and 1 thing I wanted them to work on. And I praised them. Every kid. Now, I was an elementary teacher, and I had like 30 kids. So you have to adjust that depending on your job. But praise, finding a way to make sure you recognize people, it makes a difference. Telling a story, elaborating on whatever it is you're teaching. And today it's so much easier because you have technology at your fingertips. You've got YouTube, and you've got all these videos and things that can make anything you're teaching, no matter what subject or grade, come to life. And it makes kids remember, and it makes us remember. And one story, just one example of that is, one time when I was an elementary principal, we had notification that we were going to get some little girls who had been very severely burned. And they were going to the Galveston burn unit. They'd been in a car explosion. And we knew that here they were going to come and enroll in our school. And wow, what were the other kids going to do? What was going to happen? Were they going to get teased? Was it going to be a disaster? So we did some proactive work. And my counselor went into the class that they were coming to, and that whole grade level actually, and she brought with her a geode. I wish I would have I have one, but it's really heavy and I wasn't going to lug it across the campus. But it's a rock, and it looks really brown and kind of like a moon rock on the outside. And so she had this geode, and she talked about, she let the kids touch it and look at the roughness and the features on the outside. And then she opened it. And inside of the geode was this beautiful blue crystal sparkle. And her whole story was, you can't just go by what something looks like on the outside. You got to think about what's on the inside. And these girls are coming, and they're awesome kids. So be ready for them. All right, so what did she do? She made it something that they're going to remember, and that they did, and it worked actually really well. So tell the story. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate on your team of teachers, with your friends. Enjoy celebrations with your class and your students. It's really, really important that you take time to do that. Maybe you'll even have another job, like a coach or something like that. You'll have even more opportunities. I want to elaborate on that because that's going to connect to something in just a second. And lastly, set the example. Do unto others. Treat the kids the way you would have wanted to be treated. Treat the parents the way you think your parents would have wanted to be treated. If you remember your parents used to gripe about certain things, make sure you don't do those things. But set the example, do unto others, and all of these things are part of what make this not just a job. Like they've all said, it's a calling. It's a true calling. And so you are trying to encourage the whole child. Okay, so those are just 7 things. And I encourage you to get that book. It'll be fun. And I think you'll really get something out of it. And then these little tips for just your, that I've seen. Be proud to be a teacher. It is a wonderful job. I remember when I was first a teacher, I was like hoping people would ask me, what do you do? Because I wanted to say, I'm a first grade teacher, because I loved it that much. Affirm and praise, which also goes along with the book, but really stop and think about that. Do you write notes? Do you send, of course, you could just do emails, texts, but are you taking time to do that? It's really powerful. No matter what job you have, no job is beneath you. So when you're in that classroom, don't leave it a mess for the custodians. Teach the students to take care of things, and no matter what job you have all along the way, there's no job that you wouldn't stop and help someone to do. That's just what you do, because that's the culture that you build in your life. Okay, get out of your comfort zone. This has a lot to do with some of the things that were said about looking for jobs. You may not get the job in the school that you were at, that you think is the greatest school on earth. Lots of kids want to come back and teach in those schools. You may not get your hometown. You may not get the grade level that you want. So in other words, you're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. And even if you get it, guess what? The enrollment may change, and you may have to get shifted over to another campus or another grade. So sometimes you just got to step out and say, you know what? I can try something new, and it'll be okay. So really be flexible. Would that be true? Flexible. Gain a variety of experiences. Sometimes that flexibility can just really add to your resume and help you to be more knowledgeable about just lots and lots and lots of things in the school business. For example, one of the ways, and I think Jeff touched on this, but one of the things that will help you be marketable is if you have been or willing to be a cheerleading sponsor, a coach, oh, I can help with academic decathlon, I'm willing to help be the liaison with the PTA, you're willing to do something else extra. And believe me, there's lots of it at every level. So gain a variety of experiences which will help you to be marketable and be willing to do those. Make career moves strategic. Do not job hop every 2 years or every year to the next job because it pays $1,000 more or it's 10 minutes closer to home. If you do that, then your resume as you move through shows that you're not someone that they can depend on for a long period of time. That's a personal opinion of mine. Some people have done that and it's worked out okay. But I say, make them strategic. Think it through. Now when I do this, I want to make sure it's at the right time for the right reason. And lastly, keep your sense of humor through it all because, you know what, you're entering into a profession that's a lot of work. It's a lot of time, it's a lot of hours, it's a lot of pressure sometimes, especially with all the changing accountability. So you got to keep your sense of humor and surround yourself with people that are fun to be with, fun to work with. And so I kind of wrap all that up and I would also say to you that as you do that and as you make those moves strategic, the networking that you're making here at A&M is really powerful, and you can rely on that. I would not be assistant superintendent in Alvin ISD coming from Katy if I hadn't met Dr. Brent through Texas A&M and the PhD program. That's a network, okay? Met somebody, he gets a big job, he calls me, hey, that's cool. All right, that's what happens. It's who you know. A lot of times it's who you know. So make all of those things work, but make those career moves strategic so that you are not just hopping around for the next $500. And then sometimes that happens. Anyway, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'll see who's next. Dr. Brazino, okay, now practical application. Rockstar.
Oh man, listening to those old folks talk about, I don't know, Dion, Neon, whatever. Lucky for you guys, they save us young guys for the end. Because when I'm talking Snooki, I'm talking Taylor Swift, and if I'm going to bring old school, I'm going to talk George Strait. Everybody knows George Strait, alright? So, lucky for you guys, they saved us. One thing I want to do first, and guys, part of teaching and everything else is you take risks. Man, you got to take risks. And you're gonna make yourself look like a fool every now and then. I do it daily, but I take risks. And so one thing that I want to do with you guys is I want everybody to stand up real quick for me. I learned, there's 2 words that I like that I heard today, and that's howdy and whoop, and I can't say it and I'm not doing push-ups. You told me I was doing push-ups. So what I want you to do is look at your neighbor, and I want you to say, howdy. Howdy. I want you to know that you are whoop-tastic. For being in education. Thank you. Have a seat. All right, guys. And thinking about what you got, I thought, man, there's so much things that I want to tell them, and there's so many things. I'm looking for leaders. I'm looking for people that come into Alvin High School and change the world, right? What are the things that I could tell you? What are the things that I could say to you that you would kind of give you a heads up? I'm not in the club. But you're my buds, right? I want to give you a heads up and hey, this is what you're fixing to get into. So thinking of the many challenges, I went into a classroom and I said, you, and you. I picked out 7 kids. I said, come out here. And the kids were like, what's going on? The principal never comes in here and just calls us that, right? So I had them go out there and I took their picture. And I took their picture and then I'm going to tell you a little bit about their story so that I can give you kind of first-hand glance at the thing that you're going to be dealing with, right? And I just gave away my whole presentation, which I'm so mad about right now, but it's right. Because you're going to see this in a minute. What do they have in common? They're all in the same classroom, Johnny. Oh! Alright. So here we go. We're going to talk about these kids. So what do these kids have in common? So when you think about the diversity in our schools, when you think about all the different things and the challenges that they come from, single-parent homes, both making an income, living with their kids, brothers, living in state homes, I want you to think about these as I introduce you to these 7 kiddos, and just be thinking of what they have in common, which I already told you. All right, Jason. Jason's an athlete. All right, this kid is a 504 student. He has test anxiety. Kid just freaks out anytime there's a test. He's capable, but he just doesn't know how to handle a test. Lives with a single mom. All right. His mom has a 9th grade education. He's one of 3 siblings. Thing about Jason, when you go talk to him, he's excitable. Loves the girls. What's even funnier is he thinks the girls love him. Right? And so, and one thing about Jason is he knows how to get out of work. And when teachers let him, he gets right on out of it. And you know, a lot of you probably in here probably know what I'm talking about. One thing that I think about when I think about Jason is a squirrel. All right? Me and him have the squirrel mentality. Shiny objects. All right? So that's Jason. Here's Sarah. Sarah, brilliant. Sarah is brilliant. Top 10%. She's a top 10% student. She's in band. If you're in band, you know you're smart. God. Love the band members. All right. Lives with both parents. Both parents have college degrees. She's one of 2 siblings. And, man, she's a self-learner, takes initiatives, gets after it. Teacher comes in and says, all right, everybody turn to page 3. I already did that for last night for homework. Can I do it and go on to the next page, or can I just get on my Kindle and do something different? She's that type of student. Teachers love Sarah's students. Then we have Jasmine. Jasmine's a former athlete, pregnant, resides with grandma. She came to us from Mexico in 7th grade. Grandma has no formal education and only speaks Spanish. She is one of 4 siblings. One thing about Jasmine, girl's got an attitude. You tell her to do something, you know, I'm not doing that. Oh, I'm gonna call your grandma. Go ahead, you don't speak Spanish. And so, and she doesn't always do what she's expected to do, only when she wants to. And one of the things with Jasmine, she has a lot of influence in the classroom. A lot of influence in the classroom. Girls look up to her, girls like her. She's one of those that was a former athlete, but now she's kind of can't play soccer, so she's in the group and she's kind of leader. All right? Next one is Gabriel. Good kid. These are my favorite kind of kids. Gabriel, no extracurricular involvement. He's a repeat freshman. Persistent misconduct. Recently came back from an alternative education placement program. All right, we called it that. He wants to drop out. He knows he's going to drop out as soon as he can. Judge won't sign it. He wants to go get his GED. By the way, when our kids go and get a GED, it counts against the school system, just so you know. He comes from a group home, Kids Harbor, which is down the road. He's one of 4 siblings, but all his brothers, his 2 brothers and his sister, all live in a different home. He misses them, wishes they were with him. They were taken from CPS took them early on, and he's just miserable. Doesn't want to be there, struggles, fakes it through, doesn't trust anybody. There's 1 or 2 coaches that he kind of looks up to and kind of goes through, but he knows he won't be around long because he's going to go somewhere else, or he's going to go and find another home, right? So he struggles. Gabriel is one of those kids that consumes all of the teacher's time. He wants attention. He's in that classroom and wants attention, okay? Then we have Jackie. FFA, love FFA. At our campus, we're one of the largest FFA schools in the state of Texas. We have about 300 students, and it is incredible. She's a SPED student, lives with mom. Mom has a high school diploma and is very involved. One of 3 siblings, problem with self-esteem. God, you know, you every time you see her, like, God, she's so capable, so willing, but she wants to do it one-on-one by herself off to the side. Doesn't really want to be called out. And when she goes in the classroom, the minute the teacher violates that trust and calls her in and says, hey, Jackie, can you come up and do number 3? She shuts down. And sometimes she gets herself into trouble because she goes off and gives attitude. Says, I'm not going to go do that. And she'd much rather go to the office than go to the front of the room. Then we have Alejandra. No extracurricular involvement, ESL student, moved in from El Salvador 3 days ago, believe it or not. No educational records. We had to do a test and find out that she has a 2nd grade reading level. Freshman. No English, she's diabetic. And that's all we know about Alejandra at this point. All right? Jamie, no extracurricular involvement, BC student, lives with both parents. Both parents have high school diplomas. She has no siblings. She thinks she is the center of the world. All right? I'm going to take a risk. No, I'm not going to take a risk right now. All right? And so when we think about what these kids have in common, as I flip through my old school presentation, not my Kindle or iPad, we talk about Jason and all these individuals as God, they each pose a different challenge. How would you teach Jason? Would you teach Jason the way you would teach Alejandra? Would you teach Alejandra the same way you would teach Jamie? And you go on and on and on. And all these kids have different learning needs. Every one of them has something different. And guess what? They all sit in the same classroom. And you have only 50 minutes to get it done. That is public education right there. No matter how you put it, maybe not a pregnant student in your classroom. Maybe somebody who has a rap sheet and has been to jail and has been to juvie or anything else. You can go down every single one. Other health issues, 504 students. You're going to have that many learning needs in your classroom. How are you going to adapt what you do, not what you like to do, how you're going to teach to meet their needs? And those are the things that you have to start thinking about. Here are some faces of actual students that sit in a high school right now whose needs aren't getting met because it's not easy to do. God, we have teachers that burn out, great teachers that burn out with this simple question: what do you do with these 7 kiddos? What do you do? And I'll tell you, if it was that easy, I'd tell you. But it's hard work. And it takes dedication. And it takes leaders. Leaders that are going to fight the status quo of the way things used to be, where you have teachers that have been teaching for 25 years. Oh, you know, these kids, they need to be held accountable. Until we start holding them accountable and failing them, they're never going to learn what you saw from these kids. And I'm always like, Dr. Bellows, please help me get rid of this teacher. So, ready or not, the ball's in your court, guys. I will tell you as a principal, I hold my staff members accountable to making sure that these kids' needs are met. I will give you every resource in the world. I will give you every last dime that I have in a budget to make sure that these kids are successful. But how do we do it, right? And so I'm going to give you a few words of advice that I've seen work. And I'm going to tell you, one of the first things that I'm going to tell you right now is, as you go out there, I see a lot of leaders in here, people that are going to get out there. When you get into campus and you're a superstar, the first thing that people want to do is give you more to do. Learn to become the best teacher that you can before taking other things. Learn to say, not at this time. Thank you so much for that. But right now, I really want to focus on teaching, especially year 1. I'm going to tell you, you're going to go in there, fired up, ready to change the world, willing to do anything and do everything for everybody else. And guys, you're going to burn yourself out. So here's my advice for you. Because here's the punchline. These students are all in the same logic class. Everybody goes, ooh, never saw that coming. God, burn that one. All right, so here's my words of advice. Be innovative. God, find different ways. Dance, sing, make a video, get on YouTube, go see somebody else making a fool themselves and put them on the screen. I don't care. Be innovative and find ways to engage these kids. These kids are wanting to be engaged. These kids are wanting you to take a risk. These kids are wanting you to say, I'm willing to do anything to make you know that 4 + 4 is 8 every single time. And if I have to say it to you 10 times, I'm going to say it to you 10 times. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, God, I've told you 10 times. I'm going to tell you, you know what? For the 11th time, 4 + 4 is 8. Guys, let's not make this difficult. Get out there, be creative, and be innovative, and engage our kids. Ask for help. Most of our teachers, brand new teachers, never come to me and ask me, hey, can you help me out with this? I want you to ask me for help. Guys, on our campus we have 2,500 kids, about 175 teachers, all right? About 10 of them are brand new. There are people that are assigned to have buddy teachers, mentor teachers, but sometimes we're like, God, I know they're there to help me, but I'm just, I should know this. Or I'll just figure it out. God, ask. Ask, because when you don't, you start worrying about it, you start stressing out about it, and all of a sudden, you're not wanting to come to school. God, I don't want to go to school. And all of a sudden, it's just a big domino effect. When you could have just asked for help. And I'm telling you, there isn't a person in any school district in our area, especially Alvin ISD, that is not willing to help you. Ask for help. You got to have a balance between your home and school life. They're going to be our school day is from like 7 to 3 o'clock, 7 to 3 o'clock. Some days you're going to leave at 3 o'clock, sometimes you're going to leave at 7 or 8, right? But at the end of the year, there should be a balance there. Because if you're leaving school every day at 3 o'clock, right when that bell, or you're beating the kids out the door and running them over as they're crossing the door, if you're doing that, right, you're doing a disservice to your kids because of the lack of preparation and reflection in the lesson and integrity of the lesson designs that you're doing, right? But on the flip side of that, if you're staying at school till 8 o'clock and just stressing out about everything and trying to be perfect with everything that you do, well then your home life is going to fall apart. Your parents are going to be mad at you if you're still living with them. Shame on you. Your husband or your wife or whoever it is. I was going to say and girlfriend, but this should be a wife or girlfriend, not both. All right. But if you're staying at the school till 8 o'clock, guys, that's too much. And you know what? If you're not happy at home, that's going to spill into the classroom. And when that spills into the classroom, disservice to the kids. It's all about the kids, no matter how you frame it. So have a good balance. Be around 50-50. Sometimes it's going to be heavy, sometimes it's going to be light, but at the end of the year, you should say, you know what? I feel pretty good about that. I have a pretty good, healthy life. Be a leader. The easiest thing, and this is what a lot of our staff members do, the easiest thing is to have 1 or 2 ways to teach all of these kids and throw it down and just let chips fall where they may. Guys, leaders are going to go out there and find ways to each one of those learning needs and find different ways. Johnny, how do you do that? Well, I have a teacher who videos her lessons, so she gets in there. She says, you 3 get on the Kindles, go ahead and look at this video. She knows where they're at. They're going to be able to go and get started on the lesson. These 3 are my top 10 percenters. You guys go ahead and go to chapter 3 and get that done for me to answer the questions. And then I'm going to go spend this time with these kids while they're all going on the same thing. Different starting points, but it's all the same. These are using the computers. These are independent. They can already get it done. This group might have already gotten it done because they're the Sarahs, and then this group right here I'm working with. But there's ways to do it, but it takes a lot of reflection, a lot of time, a lot of dedication in getting those things done. Now I'm going to tell you just a little bit about myself. I have a family of 6. I have 2 brothers, 3 sisters. And I can tell you that one of my brothers, by the time he was in 9th grade, was the most heavily recruited Mexican Mafia member in South Texas. Very big time. By the time he was 19, he shot somebody, got sentenced to 15 years in prison, and eventually served 13 years, and his son was 1 year old the day he was born. All right? My 3 sisters, one of them graduated from high school, the other 2 dropped out. My other brother was a pothead, dropped out, never got his GED or anything like that. So I have 5 brothers, 2 brothers and 3 sisters, right? And then you have me. I'm going to tell you the biggest thing that teachers did for me is they changed the lives of not Johnny Percent, they didn't change my life. They changed the life of my child who wasn't even born yet when I sat in the classroom. When I was in 9th grade, there were teachers that took the time to hold me to the high expectations that they had and the things that they knew that I could accomplish. When they said that I had homework, they didn't care if I had a baseball game the night before. By God, you're going to have your homework, Mr. Baseball Player. And you know what? When we came home on a late bus, guess what I had to do? My homework, because there was a teacher that expected me to have it every single day. But what that teacher did for me, God, I'm indebted for it forever. My coaches, indebted to them forever. But what they've done for my daughter, guys, I can't even, my kids' lives are totally different than my 2 brothers and my 3 sisters' kids. When they come over for Christmas, my cousins come over here and, Mommy, I want to live in a house like Theo John's. Jeff Burke, Theo means uncle. And so, and I want to live in a house like Theo John's. You see, my nieces and nephews, welfare, apartment complex, free rent to free rent. Struggle. And my daughter doesn't know that. And there's only so much that I can do for my family, my brothers and sisters, and we're close. We're tight. But we all grew up in the same house. The same house. Same parents. All the way through. And the difference was educators, teachers that took the time to know me and invest their time in me. Couldn't afford a senior shirt. Teacher said, here, here's a senior shirt. $10. Just gave it to me. I remember Mr. Pugh. I remember. He did it discreetly, and I still have that shirt, all worn out with holes and everything else. I'm not throwing that thing away. Not doing it. I guarantee you if I went and told him that, he wouldn't even know. Wouldn't even have a clue. But you know what? It's not about me. What he's done for my kid. My daughter's kids are going to have such a different life and a different perspective than my nieces and nephews' kids. Guys, when you go out there, you have such a responsibility that you don't even know. But think about the opportunity that you have to change the lives of children that aren't even born yet. Guys, that is a powerful, powerful thing. Thank you.
Wow, it's such a pleasure to be following that. Woo! Hey guys, how's everybody? Feel like you're learning just a little bit maybe? Good, good. Well, my part of today is to kind of give you a little bit of an insight of, you know, we're all here, we're all giving you tips of advice, we're all giving you words of wisdom, but I kind of wanted to take you through maybe a typical day of what it really is like to teach. And so I normally tell stories through pictures. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put up just a few in a little while, and I'm going to ask you just to kind of see what you notice, because I will tell you these pictures that are on these slides, many of them are our classrooms, many of them are our kiddos, and many of them are of our teachers. But it is so different, even from, let's see, maybe 5, 6 years ago when I was teaching. And so my classroom, although I thought it was awesome and I was a rock star teacher, it was so different than what you're about to see. So pretty much we're in a very ever-changing world of teaching. And so I just want to kind of show you what a few classrooms look like now, and then we'll talk a little bit about what that actually means. So let's see if I can learn to press the right button. First, I want to start off by just kind of showing you my school. On the outside, lots of schools look the same. My school has, right now, as of yesterday, 924 students. It's a pre-K through 5th grade campus. I've got 90 plus faculty and staff, not including, of course, your custodial and cafeteria staff, but teachers and paraprofessionals. We've got 38 different languages on our campus and flags to represent every country that all of our kiddos come from. And I'm not going to read all the different programs to you, but we pretty much offer just about everything for our kiddos. And then last but not least, you can see the breakdown of all of our kiddos' backgrounds. So just a little lovely. Did I turn it off again? Okay. Well, since my next slide was really a picture, it's kind of hard to paint that for you. So, give me just a second. Is it going to take a long while? Okay, 4 minutes. He's a great timer. Okay, well, let me kind of tell you a little bit in a minute what you were going to see on the actual slides. What I was going to do is just take you through literally one of our typical days in school. I went into classrooms and said, hey, real quick, let me take a snapshot, and just took snapshots. Some of them were just workstations. Some of them were just where kiddos were actually working. But the one thing that through all of those different pictures that you could see is technology was incorporated somehow in some way. And so I know that you guys are probably learning a lot about that now in your classrooms because we are teaching 21st century learners. They are quicker, faster, smarter. They can figure out things long before you could probably ever teach it to them by looking it up on the internet. So that was going to kind of be the hook, so I guess I'm giving it away like Johnny did in his whole presentation. But what I wanted to connect it to at the very, very end, as I take you through all of that, is how kiddos are using it. How neat it is to see kiddos really, truly engage in what they're learning, because it's completely different than sitting in rows, opening textbooks, and question and answer session with a teacher. From there, though, you'll hear a lot of times that teachers will say, oh, my kids are so engaged with this technology, it's so awesome, you're never going to believe what they can do. But there's still so much that technology can't do for our kids. There's so much of being a teacher that even your curriculum, the content that you're taught, sweet, awesome. Okay, now I get to actually show you the pictures that I was talking to you about. Thank you. Okay, there we go. Okay, now you can actually see them. I hope everybody can see them okay. This first one here, I just kind of labeled the top of them for you. You can actually see some of the student work up, but if you notice, we've got all of our classrooms have 4 teacher computers, or not teacher computers, kiddo computers. This is a primary math class where you can obviously see that they're doing something with fractions. There's just your first grade classroom, and you can actually see, I guess I tried to get a few shots without kids in it, and that's terribly hard when you're walking around, but yes, and you do see things hanging from the ceiling. Sometimes that's an issue with the fire marshal, but you just keep going. Yeah, you just keep going. It's nice to affirm kids by hanging up their work, right? Definitely. Here's a 4th grade math class in action, a 2nd grade class in action, and it may be kind of hard to see her over here, but I love this picture over here on the right because in a math class, you see her, she's sitting down in her big comfy chair, and she's actually reading them a book as the focus of the lesson to bring in the literacy part of the math class too. But regardless, oh, and there's her actual fraction map in the back. Here's a 2nd grade literacy classroom, and you can see the kiddos smiling so beautifully for us, doing their station work. And again, over here, teacher in 2nd grade math and science. All right, and here are just some, I wanted to catch some things truly in action, not just pictures of kiddos in their classrooms, doing actual seat work or anything like that, but really in action, the way some of our kiddos are using technology. And so they're making flip charts. This kiddo, it's kind of hard over here to see to the right, but he's actually in a math station using the Promethean board as his station instead of math tubs or things like that. Here's a 4th grade. Jasmine was extremely excited to show off her work. But interactive writing, even kids coming up completing some of our We Do Thinking maps in Alvin, but it's just really a way to organize your thinking. Okay, and here's kind of what I was getting to for you guys. You know, they'll say that technology these days makes lessons a lot easier or easier to plan. They are definitely more engaging for kiddos because they can't wait to get their hand on anything electronic. And some even say that it does make it a little bit easier to teach. But you can see this teacher over here to the left, she's actually modeling for her students. Over here, this is actually, you know, gone are the days of the whiteboard and the chalkboards. Definitely I don't even know if you can still buy chalk. But what I really want to drive home is, you know, it is so important to design engaging lessons for our kiddos to where we can really see the light bulbs going off and where we can really get a good gauge of their understanding. Because there's so much that technology isn't going to be able to do for us. And so it can't do all of this. In this left picture here, it's kind of hard to see, but this is one of our kindergarten teachers. She was building something, the kiddos are making something for their parents. They're completing a around the world calendar starting in January, but she's actually taking their shoes off, I don't know if you can see, and she's dipping them in the paint one by one, taking the time to help kiddos out do that. And then over here on the right, these little girls, Precious, were actually writing a thank you note. We had a pilot come in and speak. And it was their own idea. Their teacher in their writing class, they wanted to write them a thank you note from every single kiddo in the class. And so I just thought it was pretty powerful because, you know, we forget a lot of times that that's part of teaching too. That we've got to teach our kids and we've got to model for our kids what being a great person is also. So that's a lot of things that these days you're going to hear so much about curriculum and what a good lesson looks like and how to interview and how to get the job. But guys, this is the biggest impact that you can make is building relationships with those kiddos. All right, here's more of the secret life, not necessarily of being a great teacher for the kiddos, but kind of the secret life. So technology can't do this either. It can't really give you more time. I snapped a picture of that kindergarten teacher leaving the other day, and if you notice, she's leaving at exactly 7:46 p.m. That's not exactly that work day that you would think 8 to 3. It's just going back to what Johnny was saying earlier. You know, a lot of times you've got to find a good way to balance that work life and being a rock star teacher, and at the same time balancing that family life. And then some of these pictures aren't coming out quite as clear as I would have liked, but the one on the right, this one says, give you more hands to get it all done. And so the teacher would kill me if she knew that I actually took this. But it's a picture of her desk. Look, it looks like a mess. And she left it that way, and that's okay. You know, you don't have to be picture perfect. I thought it was kind of neat. But you can see all the kids' sentence strips. It's just being very, very active with your kiddos, planning good things. But guys, that's another thing. Technology or planning great lessons can't do for you. It's not going to give you those things back. You've got to find a really good way to balance it for yourself. Okay, and this really is just kind of a behind-the-scenes look. I'm not going to read all those bullets to you. I think you're very capable of doing that all on your own. But this is just truly, in one day, you might be responsible for all of those things in one day. And notice you don't see teaching. That's a lot of stuff, guys. It's something you need to know, because a lot of times our teachers go into this and go, I didn't know somebody was going to ask me to do this. I didn't know that this was it. I just wanted to teach. But all of these things go into you truly knowing your kiddos, to you truly being able to teach, not just what you need to teach, but how you need to teach it for those different 7 kiddos that are sitting in Dr. Brasino's campus high school classroom. So lots of different things that sometimes you don't really know are expected of you. Okay, and this is what I call the juggling teacher. There's so much more that just goes into teaching too, but this kind of goes into what I really consider is the heart of teaching. It's, yes, of course, being knowledgeable. Yes, of course, it is being, I truly look for good people first. I think good people, you can teach them how to teach something. You've got to have the heart to do it first. But one of the best quotes that I have ever really heard, it actually came from my very first principal that I worked for. And I'm not sure I quoted him very well, but I tried. So over here on the left, what education is looking for and how to get started. This is the main thing I want you guys to take away from today. Think about it. The career you have selected is quite different from the jobs your friends who are going into the corporate world have chosen. From the first day, you will be responsible for the work of others, when most people work months or years to achieve this responsibility. Think about it. When someone hires you to put you in a classroom, most likely if you're at the elementary level, you're going to have 22 kiddos in the classroom. They're going to shut the door, and they're going to let you do it. No one else is going to be in that classroom, and you may have a moment, a freak out moment, where you're like, oh, okay, this is really happening, what do I do? But think about it. What other job in the world, your first day on the job, do they shut the door and say, here you go, you've got 22 lives in your hand, taking care of them? You know, it doesn't really happen. And so from the moment, that first day when those kiddos come, and that door closes, and you have your freak out moment, you've got to stop and remember, wow, I have such an ability to make a change. One of the things Dr. Brasino over here didn't say at the end of his presentation, that he actually had written down because I read his notes, was those kiddos never leave. No student leaves your classroom during the day unchanged. You will make an impact on a kiddo. See, stole your line. You will make an impact on a child. It's either going to be positive or it's going to be negative. They're never going to come in there unchanged. So you have to think every day, and guys, that's hard. You're going to come in, you're going to be tired. You're going to look at that workstation and go, oh my God, I left it like this, and I've got to clean it up, and I've got to have their work hung, and I've got to have this parent conference. But it's what are you going to do for that kiddo today that's going to make a difference when they leave your classroom? Whether it is in 15 minutes or whether it is all day and you have them all day to make a difference. So, and last but not least, it is essential that you begin your work realizing that you need extraordinarily sophisticated people skills from the opening bell. Meaning, if kiddos come into your classroom and they're not ready for the day, what are you going to do as a really good person to change it for them? Because sometimes it's all about how you go about communicating what you really believe and want for those kiddos. Because if kiddos know that you love them, even the really hard ones to love, if they know it and they know that you care enough about them, they'll do anything for you. They really will. All right, and everybody was giving their hints. I went with the top 10 and helpful hints. But first is get out there and build your experience. You know, one of the things that was so important for me is, you know, I was one of those people, I graduated high school, I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know why I wanted to do it. I just felt like it was always my path. It was what I was going to do. There was never a question. I started in high school building my experience because I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that it may not be easy, and I knew, let's face it, there's lots of competition out there. What was I going to do that was going to be different from someone else? So it goes back to what everyone else has been telling you. Find a way to stand out. Find a way to build experience. Even if it is just you saying, you know what, there's a school right around the corner. I'm going to ask them if maybe I could come in and do a few observations. They'll let you do it for the most part. I know I do. So even if it just helps you decide What grade level do you really want to teach? What subject are you going to be strongest in? That's the second bullet. The third one, find and communicate your passion, not just a love for kids. Guys, yes, a love for kids is so important, but let's face it, you wouldn't be doing something in this profession, no matter whether you want to teach, whether you want to coach, whether you already know that you want to be an administrator, you wouldn't hopefully be doing it if you didn't have a sincere want to make a difference for kids, because they desperately need it. Come up with something different that really sparks a passion for you, other than just, I just love kids and I always have. Because I'm going to tell you, there really has not ever been an interview that I've sat down and someone didn't tell me that they loved kids. I would hope that you do. Number 4, be specific. Be specific. Be prepared to talk about your classroom, what it will look like, what it will sound like. Give examples. That is always a question I ask. I don't just want to know what you've done in the past. I want to know how you're going to carry that on and what is it going to look like. And it's okay. There's no really right or wrong answer. I mean, if you say I'm going to have them in rows and I'm going to say Bueller, 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 well then yes, that's probably the wrong answer. But I want you to be really specific. Tell me what a normal day in your classroom may look like and sound like, so I get a good idea of exactly who I'm hiring and where I might want to put you to best match kiddos that are coming into your class. The next one, certification. So many times, yes, we want you to be specific. Yes, we want you to know what you want to do, but don't limit yourself certification-wise either. I know that there are many people out there who, require you to get the GT training, to have the ESL endorsement. It's okay to, even if I really, really want to teach second grade. Everybody at the elementary level always wants to teach second grade. That's okay. That's totally okay. But it also may not hurt you to go ahead and get your 4 through 8. You never know. Sometimes you'll end up in an elementary school that does have 6th grade. I was one of those people. I first got hired for 2nd grade. They very quickly moved me to 4th grade. Literally, before we even started school, I taught 4th grade. For 3 good years, they came and said, at the middle school level, we really, really need you to go and teach 7th grade English. Never in my million dreams would I have ever imagined myself teaching junior high students. Ever. And I told them that. Are you sure? Do you really want me, little Miss Elementary, to go and teach 7th grade students? And they looked at me and said, we really do. We won't make you, so think about it. I said, well, if that's really what you want, I'll try it. I would have never imagined how much I would love it. And from there, they came and said, those kids you just taught in 7th grade English? We'd really like you to go and do it in 9th grade. I thought, high schoolers? Really? I look like I'm 12. I'm short. They're all taller than me. How is that possibly going to work? And I loved it. So don't just limit yourself with certain certifications. Go out and get them all if you're ready for it. The second bullet, this one can kind of be confusing. Yes, you need to know what type of programs maybe a school, especially if you're going into a certain district or at a certain campus even. Sometimes they're different from campus to campus. You want to know what type of programs they use, but you also want to be really honest with it. It's okay if you sit down at an interview or a principal's talking to you and say, well, have you ever used the literacy collaborative model? And if you haven't, say no. It's totally okay. The best answer is, no, I haven't, but I have done this and this and this. Is it similar? Or I'm totally willing to learn that. But it is a very good idea that maybe ahead of time, some of those things so that you can prepare. Lesson planning, design, and implementation. Do not underestimate the power of those things. I know many different colleges, many different education programs, they ask you to build a portfolio. Many principals that you sit down and interview with will ask to see those. I know now many of them are digital, which are great, but the main thing is that you can talk about how you go about, or at least for me, it's how you go about designing lessons for kiddos. It's not that you know how to use a scripted curriculum. It's not that you have had lots and lots of lesson planning experience and the 5 E's or a focus activity. For me, it's what is going to be different each time when you face something difficult that's hard to teach for kiddos. What do you do that's different in designing lessons for kiddos? So we really are, especially in our district, we're kind of shifting our focus, not necessarily from lesson planning, but designing lessons for kids. And so just kind of marinate on that. I don't even know what number I'm on, but don't underestimate procedures, management styles. You know, a lot of times you'll go in and, like Dr. Velo said, they're always going to ask you some type of question about your management style or your classroom management. The best thing that I can tell you is never, especially when you shut that door on the first day and you're responsible for all those kiddos, always remember procedures first. If you teach kiddos what to do and how to do it, we really use the word train kids, but if you do, all of the other things really can fall in line. But if you don't even have clear procedures yourself, know how, and it's so simple, how you want kids to turn in work, how you want students to respond to you. Do not underestimate the power of procedures and knowing what procedures you actually want in your class. Of course, everyone has been telling you to build your references and your resources, so I won't harp on that one. That one is extremely important, though. You never know, even if you're not working on the same campus as your friend or a colleague that you've had, you never know who you can lean on for support and to learn from. So to me, that's the biggest, they are the biggest resource that you can possibly have. Stand out in the crowd, absolutely. I will tell you the first thing that I'm always drawn to in people is their personality. It doesn't just have to be bubbly or cheesy or funny like Dr. Persino over there. But you do want, I gotta pick on you. You're the only one who hasn't been picked on yet.
Bubbly, cheesy, or funny?
Oh, I'd say all three.
Okay.
I'd say all three.
Not true.
You know
I
he's
need a math
lying.
teacher, that's why it's not true.
But do something that's going to make you stand out in the crowd. Do be engaging. Don't be afraid to talk a little bit about yourself. The main thing that I always speak, sometimes I want to know more about you as a person. Sometimes I'm going to ask you questions to try and pull that out of you. But there's a level of bragging and there's a level of overconfidence. But you definitely want to let people know who you are and why you are willing and wanting to do this. So however you go about doing that, to me, helps you stand out in the crowd. And I always like to tell you, people always ask me, hey, in an interview, should you ask questions? Because most of the time they're always going to wrap up and end with, well, what questions do I need to ask, or do you have questions of me? Here are some great ones. I always like to hear these two from teachers or teacher candidates that we're looking at. Ask about what type of new teacher programs does your district have or a campus have? Will I have a mentor? What's the best way for me to get support? It does not make you look weak. It makes you look like you are a team player who's really wanting to work with someone and learn from them. The last one is, it's always a good idea to ask, because sometimes you will probably get a phone call for an interview, possibly from a school, yes, you've applied for it, but you don't know a lot about it. Ask them. Ask them, hey, as a principal, what are you looking for in a new teacher? What type of things do you like to see in the classroom? Because the more that you can get people really talking about their school, about the teachers there, or ask the teachers. A lot of times when you go in for an interview, you'll have a round table of teachers. Ask them. Get a good feel for what they're really looking for. And I'm pretty close to wrapping up, I think. I've got a few quotes. I'm a quote person. My whole office has quotes on the wall, and it kind of looks like newspaper articles, but it's okay. All right, so the mediocre teacher tells. I'm sure you guys have heard this. The good teacher explains. The superior teacher demonstrates. But the great teacher inspires. That's really what today, when you guys leave, think about it. What are you going to do that is going to inspire those kiddos that are sitting in high school who don't even want to be there, who are having such a hard time getting engaged and loving actual learning? These days, we're missing that huge piece of teaching and having kiddos love to actually learn. The last quote, going back to technology. It's not what software we use or what programs we have. It's what we do with them to inspire that matters. So just know that the experiences that you're already building now, they're powerful. You have a lot of ammunition already to go into a classroom and be so successful. But it's what you're going to do with all that knowledge and experience that you have that's going to make the difference for our kids. And then I will turn it over to our Director of Communications for questions.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Okay, my name is Daniel, and we have talked to you a whole lot about us and what we know, and we have shared with you. So as educators, we need to focus on the who. And right now, y'all are the who. We're talking to you, but we haven't heard from you. We haven't shared. I had the opportunity to meet a few folks as I came in the door. And so right now, I'm going to ask a couple questions. I'm going to start off with Joe Ledwig. I have Joe. Is Joe over here? Where's Joe? All right, Joe. Okay, I'm going to ask you to tell us what you would like to teach, and I'm going to put you on the spot because you're the first one up. I want you to tell us something interesting about yourself other than the fact that you have an incredible beard. That's pretty slick. Okay, Joe, what do you have?
Well, I want to teach social studies, probably either 8th grade or high school. And something interesting.
The puppy, Joe. The puppy.
I'm trying to think of something good. I don't really know. I mean, 1 of 4 children? I don't know.
1 of 4.
1 of 4 children. Okay, that'll work. All right. Round of applause for Joe. I'm going to ask one more. Courtney Calvert. Where's Courtney? Courtney. Okay, Courtney.
She was my howdy fantastic partner. Yes.
Woo-tastic partner. All right. Okay, Courtney, tell us what you would like to teach and something interesting about yourself.
I'd like to teach social studies. Hi. I'd like to teach social studies and put me on the spot.
I did. You're whoop-tastic.
Oh, over break, I got to have dinner with the Aggie football team.
Fantastic. I'm a little bit jealous. That's great. And I like the number 2. That's a great shirt. Okay, and one more person I'm going to talk to because I have the understanding that this young lady, somebody paid you $5 to turn down my request to have your name on the name tag. My esteemed colleague, Dr. Johnny Bersinio, paid you $5. So what is your name? Because I don't have your name on the name card here.
Keely.
Keely, okay, fantastic. What would you like to teach?
I don't know yet.
That's okay. Do you have anything interesting that you would like to share?
I made $5 today, so I'm ready for this profession.
Fantastic. Keely, would you mind sharing your last name?
Kinnemer.
Kinnemer, okay. Keely Kinnemer, okay. Well, what I want to talk to you about real fast is the power of social media. So Keely, do you mind if I Google you real fast?
I got married this past summer, so nothing may come up from my new name.
Lucky you.
So, do you want my maiden name?
Do we want her maiden name?
Okay, so my name could either be Keely Hancock Kinnemer, or Keely Kinnemer.
I'm not going to Google Keely. Okay, thank you very much, Keely. Courtney, are you ready for me to Google you? Okay.
Now remember, we want to keep a safe learning environment. If you don't feel safe...
How about we Google Dr. Johnny Bersinio? Okay. Well, I'm not going to Google anyone for the sake of time. You lucked out here. But what I want you to consider is the fact that someone may Google you in the process of your job hunt. And social media and your presence on the internet can definitely have an impact on your job hunt. There was a quote shared by CNN that said 70% of managers will Google you, and they will take a look at your presence and who you are and who you portray yourself to be. And when you meet someone, what is the most important part of meeting someone? The first impression. And you may not have the opportunity to make the first impression in person. So you need to be conscientious of this. There's a local establishment that I've read about called The Chicken. Somewhere around, I'm not familiar. But if the majority of your Facebook pictures were taken in The Chicken, you may need to reevaluate your Facebook presence. Also, you understand the concept, and I'm not going to belabor the point, but you really need to go take a critical look at what you have out there. Be very conscientious. If you do happen to drink, it's probably not a great idea to have those photos out there because your prospective employer will Google you, but you know who else is going to Google you the day they get your schedule? Their schedule? Your students. So please be very conscientious of that. Please be mindful. We've all had that professor, we'll go with teacher. We've all had that teacher in high school, not at Texas A&M University, that maybe not, we might not have seen eye to eye with them on everything, and we may have left frustrated. You might think it's a great tweet in your head to express your frustration, but that could also show negativity to someone else that's taking a look at your Twitter or your Facebook. So just be conscientious of that. Teachers College from Columbia University has a whole page and a whole document that outlines things to consider. I won't go through that with you right now, but I would encourage you to take a look at those, kind of let you do a self-audit on your internet presence. So other than that, good luck in your educational career and your pursuits. I definitely appreciate the time, and I will turn it over to Dr. Brent.
Good job, man. All right. Hey, Johnny asked if y'all know what chalk is, because we talked about chalk earlier. We know what chalk is, good. Okay, we had some confusion, some generation gaps. I didn't realize, how about Happy Days? Did everybody see Happy Days? Oh, sweet, okay. And so, on the Happy Days, you had the Fonz, right? And what was the Fonz? The Fonz was, hey, we're going to be what? We're going to be cool, all right? Want to be cool like Fonzie. When you get that teaching job, be cool, man, all right? You want to be cool. You'll be all right. All right? You will be all right. Because there's some critical points that if you follow these things, all of that other stuff, like this slide, everybody has some really good slides, but look right here. This thing right here will really happen. Okay? All that's going to happen. These important things, all the things that Dr. Whitbeck and everyone else has shared with you, those things are going to happen. If you just take a deep breath, be cool, and build good relationships. All right? It's about relationships. I'll tell you, I was not, surprisingly, I'm a little energetic. I'm sure you probably don't realize that. But I will tell you that in school, I did struggle a little bit. I was that kid you would have wanted to put on medication, probably, because I have that squirrel nickname, Johnny Object. I do it to these guys all the time in meetings. So I was just kind of also a ran kid, just kind of there. Loved to have fun. Never really got in trouble. My senior year in high school, had no clue what I wanted to do. Just getting by, never got in trouble, just kind of goofy, had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun in high school, So, grew up right near Louisiana, and there were no laws in Louisiana. Really, there weren't. So, my senior year, I was all about baseball. And but before I do that, I'll tell about Terry Hooper. My senior year in high school, they put me in a Honors Biology 2 class. Why? I think it was a mistake. I had never taken an honors class in my life, but they put me in this class. And this lady named Terry Hooper was the teacher. All right? Haven't talked to Terry Hooper in years. Don't know where she is now. But man, she was cool. All right? She was cool. She came in, handshake and a smile. How you doing? Eye contact. She was cool. She thought about what I needed to make this lesson work. She engaged us. All right? She talked to us as students. She knew who we were. She cared. And I knew she cared. Okay? I knew she cared. And I'll never forget this moment, this day. My last game, my senior in high school, the world had ended. We got beat. We were out of the playoffs. I cried for 10 hours. I'm a crier, okay? They'll tell you, look at it, I'm not there. I am a crier. I cry. My challenge today is to get through this without crying, okay? So the day after that morning after that, we got beat. I get to class and we had this big test, and Terry Hooper met me at the door, and she said, "Fred, I'm not doing it." She said, "Fred, your coach called and he said it was a really tough game last night." And I'm not going to cry. I know how important this is to you. And you know what? You don't need to take that test right now. Go home, go back, go to the office, do something, or just come over here and sit in the corner room. You come take it when you're ready. But I know you need to take the test, but I know you're not ready for it right now. So come back later. And I came back you know what? I wanted to come back quickly to take that test. In other words, because she made that connection with me, we had that relationship, that respect, she knew my needs, I wanted to make sure I didn't let her down. I went back and took that test probably before I was ready because I didn't want to let her down. Okay? And then let's get to Joe Palmer. Joe Palmer was my senior year in high school. He was the only year he was ever coached in Orange, Texas was that 1 year. And he was a great guy. But, baseball was me, and it was the hook for me. And the difference he made in my life is the reason I'm an educator today. Dr. Brazino told you about the educators that made a difference in his life. Joe Palmer treated me with respect. He challenged me. He empowered me. He made me be better than I thought I could be. And it wasn't that, and he taught civics, yes, but the whole deal was, guys, he treated me with respect. He built relationships. He literally changed my life. He believed in me when I didn't think I could, and he put up with some of my behaviors and kind of got me where I needed to be, but it changed my life forever, okay? And so the reason I tell you that is that's the only reason I'm an educator today. I've not seen Joe Palmer since May of 1988. Yeah, I'm that old. I'm 43. God. I had a realization that we really are in that group of people that are those old guys now, and I could have some funny stories that I'll have to share later. But we're officially in that group. But in May of '88 was the last time I saw Joe Palmer. I haven't talked to him since. But it's 2012, and to 13. Damn, I'm old. All right. So anyway, 2013, and I haven't spoken to him since 1988. And today I have the great privilege of serving a student with 19,000 students, a district with 19,000 kiddos, over 2,000 employees. And to this day, everywhere I go, I talk about Joe Palmer. And I'm still saying his name. And he changed my life. And that's the challenge you've been given. Is it tough? Yes. Do you give up personal privilege? Yeah, you can't have, woohoo, Facebook. You can't have all that stuff. You got to clean it up a little bit. But the work you're doing is going to outlive your life, and it's your name. And we always talk about this. The only thing you take from this place is your name. All right? The only thing you take from this place is your name. And when people say your name, what do they think? What do you want them to think? And are you living your life in a way that they will think what you hope they think? And so, will people be saying your name someday because you made a difference in their life? I don't remember what they taught me. Dr. Brazino was making this comment a while ago, but I remember how they taught me. They taught me with dignity and respect, and they built relationships. They engaged me, handshake and a smile every day at that door. Be there, be there, be there. The work will come. We'll get you training. Man, we'll teach you all you need to know, but you can't teach talent. I can't make you care about kids. I can't make you want to make a difference. You have to have that passion, okay? Dr. Velos, I had a great privilege to hire Dr. Velos, and you know, each one of these persons brings something that I don't have. And what I hope you've seen from today is that Dr. Velos is a great, caring person. She's that person who wants to make sure everybody's okay. Dr. Whitbeck, man, she's a problem solver. She's an Aggie, of course, so, you know, she's great automatically. But she's a problem solver. She has years of experience in Katy ISD opening 3 campuses, and I knew if I thought, man, if I could ever get Dr. Whitbeck to come over here, you know, she would be great in that area. I knew the same with Dr. Velos. With Jeff Burke, I knew Jeff, and I knew what he stood for. I knew who he was. With Johnny Brazino, who the hell wouldn't hire Johnny Brazino? Okay? I mean, my gosh. But when I met Johnny Brazino, I read his story. And I called him and said, Johnny, don't you dare tell anybody this story. Do you remember that? And I knew you were going to be a high school principal then. I probably shouldn't say that. But right when I met him, I knew that's what he had to be. And he shared his story with our entire district staff, and he's changing lives every day. Jessica McMullen said one thing to me in her principal interview. Do you remember what that was, Jessica? You want to tell? What? Tell.
Live by it every day.
Yeah.
One thing that I always say, of course you're afraid of things, especially when you close that door and you have 22 lives, you're going to be scared. You'll hold on to that fear. My quote is, do one thing every day that scares you. Whether it is, as an elementary school principal last week, they put a python around my neck, and I'm terrified of snakes. Something that type of scary, or standing up in front of you talking, it still terrifies me to death. But do it. It'll drive you. It is the fun part of this job.
That was the first question I asked Jessica, and I knew I was going to hire her after that question. We talked for I don't know how long. But Daniel Combs obviously has a great presence. That video, he did the video, it was cheesy, but it was good. All right, it was good. But I knew we needed someone like Daniel Combs. And so my point is, connect with your peers, grow, and never stop learning. Each person in this room has a name that demands or commands respect, and they're making a difference. And every one of these individuals has people in their life that when they say their name, they think, man, that person made a difference with me. Okay? And that's what this is all about. Is, you know, you'll be gone, and what will they say about your name when you leave this place? Guys, we need education. We need to educate educators. Public education is critical to our success as a nation, and it's bigger than you. Live your life for something that's more important than you, because you don't take anything from this place but your name. And please don't ever, ever forget that. I hope that you realize how talented these men and women in this room are. I'm telling you, I would hate to have to compete with them for a job. I'm thankful they work with me, so I don't have to go beat them out for a job somewhere else, because they're that strong and they're that talented, and they're here to make a difference. So please don't ever hesitate to email or call on them. Are we going to get any way for them to contact us or anything like that? Daniel can take care of that. He's a communications guy. We'll figure out a way to get through your professors' numbers. We were sorry you had to sit down. I'll leave you this thought. I had to go to Disney World. Everybody knows about Disney World, right? You're all young, okay? I say I had to go to Disney World. I took my family to Disney World for the first time. I have 3 kids. Austin's 12, Alex is 10, Abby's 8. Yeah, all the A names, I know. So, I didn't want to go to Disney. It's like, man, this is going to be brutal. It's going to be a beating. You know, walk around. I want to go snow skiing. You know, my wife said, no, we're doing Disney. So, of course, little Princess Abby, she had to go to Disney. So we went. You know, whatever Abby wants, that's what I do. So we're going, and I'm telling you. And so we're going to Disney. I'm like, man, it's going to be brutal. It's murder. Jeff and his wife Kim went with us. And, of course, I got to Disney, and it was magical. It was magical. And our favorite deal was I had to find one guy and take a picture, and I wish I'd have gotten to Daniel. The one Disney person I had to take a picture with was who, Jeff? Tigger. You got it right, you know. Tigger. Be a Tigger. Don't be an Eeyore. Who wants to work with Eeyore? No. Did you welcome that interview? Be a Tigger, baby. Engage that principal. How you doing? Let me make a difference to these kiddos. Let me get a hold of them. Be a Tigger. Nobody wants to hang out with Eeyore. Everybody wants to buy a Tigger a beer at the chicken, right? Those are my famous last words in this deal. Yeah. They're all looking for new jobs right now. They're all looking for new jobs. So, yeah, goofy. Oh, yeah, see, they just said goofy. Okay, we like to laugh. Obviously, the work you do is hard. You need to laugh. Own it. Embrace it. Love it. Be a Tigger. And remember, the only thing you take from this place is your name. Don't ever forget that. Joe Palmer and Terry Hooper changed my life, and hopefully I'm changing others' lives because of what they've done to me. So, guys, good luck. Come work in Alvin, all right? We'll see you.